Hey there, it's Ron with Insurance for Texans, and I've got today's home insurance tip just for you. But before I go there, if you love what you're hearing, leave us a comment and let us know that we're providing you something of value. If you have a question, you can also use comments. If you really love it, hit the subscribe button, and that way you won't miss future home insurance tips. That said, let's talk about one of the most questioned line items on a home insurance proposal, and that is what is known as separate structures. It's typically the second number that you see on a quote from an insurance agency, and people go, what the heck is this, and can I get rid of it? So first off, let's talk about what a separate structure actually is, and what's considered one on your home insurance policy. So if you have a shop that you do woodworking in on your property, in your backyard, if you have a barn because you have horses or cows or goats or pigs, or any sort of livestock, which is super common in Texas, or if you have a detached garage where you work on that 1964 and a half Mustang, and if you've got one of those, we need to talk because A, I need to see it, and B, we need to insure it. Outbuildings of any kind, so that could be a shed, that could be a pergola. Those are considered separate structures. One thing that you've probably never considered as a separate structure is your swimming pool. So like every house on my street has a pool in the backyard. The pool can be considered a separate structure. Why do you care? So these items are not covered as part of the dwelling value on your home insurance policy. So if you have a total loss and we go to rebuild your home, we're not going to rebuild these items as part of that dwelling coverage. It's the separate structure coverage. So you want to make sure if you've got one of these shops, one of these barns, one of these garages, an outbuilding of some sort, that you've got enough separate structure coverage to rebuild it in the event that it's a subject of a loss. Now, if you don't have any of these, can we take it off of your policy? Unfortunately, in 95% of the policies we write, the answer is no. It is part of the standard package that is offered to you, and therefore it's not going to be completely removed from the policy. That said, some of the carriers that we do work with as an independent agent allow us to move that number down or move that number up. As a result, if you have none, sometimes we can get it to 2% of your dwelling value rather than the standard 10%. If you've got these outbuildings, the shops, the barns, the garages, and you need additional coverage, we can move that number up beyond the 10% to get you where you need to be. That way we make sure you're covered. Now, what else do I need to think about with respect to separate structure coverage? Number one, if we're covering it, using it to cover a fence, the reality is that's probably going to be settled at actual cash value versus replacement cost. If you've got a high-end fence and you don't want to take a depreciated value for that in a claim settlement, we need to make sure that we attach replacement cost to your fence coverage. Number two, I talked about the swimming pools earlier, and claims against the separate structure coverage for a swimming pool are generally not super frequent because it's not going to cover the repair of a pool pump. However, if you have a tornado and the surface is completely lifted off of your pool and you got to resurface it, that's where it's going to kick in. And that's something people don't think about. So it's important if you want to customize separate structure coverage, it's really important to work with a local independent insurance agent like Insurance for Texans. And the reason is we work with many companies across the entire market space that give you options in those kinds of places. I'm Ron. That's today's home insurance tip. If you want to read more, there's a link to the blog entry in the description. Take a gander. Let us know what you think.